What is going on? Welcome to another episode of the Nintendo Powercast. It is time for our game of the week, and this week's game is The Revenge of Shinobi. You guys are seeing my my footage on screen, which I've rendered twice now, and I still don't think maybe I got it right. Let's see. I'm gonna take a quick peek here. Yeah, I guess I did. Okay, it's good. It's good to go. So I was like apparently struggling a little bit with this one, but the game is interesting. The game is very, very interesting, and we'll get into it. Next week's game, Ninja Gaiden, you're gonna get 2 weeks on this one, so try to get as far as you can. Okay, I'm gonna be out of town next week, so the podcast will be sporadic. There'll be nothing live, so just keep that in mind. They will be sporadic next week, as I will be out of town. I jumped into this one thinking it was a different game. In fact, I want to look up real quick the game that I thought it was. Because there's a game on Sega where you're a ninja with a dog. Hang on. On Sega Genesis, let's see. Shadow Dancer. See, that I played Shadow Dancer way more than Shinobi, and I think I played some Shinobi actually in the arcade. Now that I think about it and put two and two together. So Shadow Dancer was fantastic. Super good. Super good. I saw some early comments. I saw Cryptic was saying he had to remap the controls. I still didn't figure out all the controls until after I lost I lost at the boss. And then I finally figured out, like, oh, I can like give myself a shield and whatnot. There was, I didn't realize I was walking by a bomb right there. If you're watching the footage, like it'll just take you out. No big deal. No big deal. No, it's got no chill. It is definitely like a game that you could tell was built for the arcade. And that's something that happened back in the day with a lot of these games that made their way to home console. Was like, oh, this game is no longer designed to eat quarters. It's meant to be completed, but they still weren't super long. So they would ramp up the difficulty just to keep you playing longer. This happened in games like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the arcade game. Like, it was a pretty common practice, honestly. And so even if you watch right there, like this little section right here at the end, I literally just run from all of the ninjas and the dogs that are coming after me. Like right now, I can take one more hit, right? And I'm just like, I am out of here. I just took off. So, Cryptic says it definitely doesn't seem like a Genesis game. It was a mix of 16-bit and 8-bit to me. SNES seemed like it had more color and power. Didn't realize it was an arcade game. So think about the release date of this one. This game came out in 1989, same year as the Game Boy, and what, 2 to 3 years before the Super Nintendo. The Sega Genesis was on the market competing against the NES. And if you have Paramount Plus, go and watch Console Wars. You'll get a big time history lesson. Basically, a guy by the name of Tom Kalinske was recruited by Sega, and he worked at Mattel and he worked on Barbie, and he also worked on Matchbox. And if you don't have Paramount, if you can get the book, the audiobook Console Wars, it's super good as well. It's one of those situations, like, the movie is really fun, and it's great seeing all the old footage of like Tom and the Nintendo executives. But the way the book starts out with some like crazy stuff happening with Matchbox, it's really, really worth a read. But like all Sega wanted was retail space in Walmart. That's what they were. So they literally set up shops and bought billboards next to Walmart's corporate headquarters so that they would constantly see Sega, and eventually gave them like a tiny section. And then that's the rest is history, how Sega went on to take like 52% of the market share from Nintendo. So I mean, it's honestly, it's really like cool and kind of crazy that, like, you know, the Genesis was technically going against the NES for a number of years before it really broke in, you know. And then Sega went crazy and did all those different they did all of those different versions of the, you know, they had the Saturn and the 32X and like all this stuff. Like it was kind of crazy, honestly, all the stuff that they ended up doing. But trying to get to my notes here. Here we go. So going through the game we're looking at today, Hero Beyond says Console Wars is a good read or watch now, I guess. Book is better. It is. Yeah, no question. And then Hero Beyond said poor Saturn. Yeah, poor Saturn. Well, let's talk about The Revenge of Shinobi. Originally released in 1989 for the Sega Genesis, this game was developed and published by Sega and is one of the standout early titles for the Genesis. It's a side-scrolling action platformer where you play as ninja Joe Musashi, out to take down the evil Neo-Zed organization that murdered his master and kidnapped his bride. Let's dig into how this legendary ninja adventure came to be. And I do want to let you guys know, I have a video on YouTube kind of deep diving into the history of this. We're going to kind of just take like a real like top level view of the history and development, but like I dig in a little bit deeper in that video. It's only like 8 minutes long or something. It's not super long, but there's some very interesting things, and we're going to touch on some of them here as well. Development and release. The Revenge of Shinobi was designed by Noriyoshi Ohba, with music composed by the legendary Yuzo Koshiro, whose soundtrack is still considered one of the best on the Genesis. This was the first Shinobi title built specifically for a home console, so the developers were able to go bigger, larger levels, more story, more moves, and that iconic soundtrack. An interesting note, this is crazy, you guys. The game had several revisions after release because of copyright issues. Are you ready for this? The early versions featured unlicensed appearances from Spider-Man, Batman, Godzilla, and even a Rambo lookalike boss. It also included what looked like a Terminator. So this apparently was the Wild West, right? And so there are versions of this game that literally, and eventually, if you go and watch my other video, I talk about it. Like they get some licensing from Marvel, and so they were able to have versions of this game with Spider-Man as a boss. Batman was literally Batman with wings, like, and I put pictures of him in that video and stuff if you guys want to see it. It's honestly crazy that they were like, hey, let's just use this real popular IP. Maybe nobody will notice. They noticed. They definitely noticed. Gameplay details. The Revenge of Shinobi features 8 levels, each with multiple stages. You control Joe Musashi, who uses shurikens, a katana, and ninja magic to fight his way through enemies. What made the game stand out were its tight controls, large detailed sprites, and the use of various ninja arts, like fire dragons, lightning shields, and the iconic suicide magic that sacrifices a life to deal massive damage. Keep in mind, I did this once during the game when I figured out how to change between the magic, and was like, well, how did I lose a life? And here's me at a boss fight right now. This guy just absolutely demolishes me. I'm like, I have no clue how to hit this guy. It wasn't until I went and did it a second time that I used like the lightning shield and was able to get some hits in, but I still wasn't able to beat him. I don't know if using different magic would have been better. I played for about 15 minutes and then I was like, I'm good on this. We'll chat about it. And because again, I was thinking I was the ninja game that I played and loved on Sega was Shadow Dancer, right? Not Shinobi. Shinobi was definitely an arcade game for me. Doesn't mean it was bad, but I was just like, this boss just destroyed me. So, and I refused to use rewind. I was just like, nope, I'm gonna beat this. I also was also kind of wondering, like, how do you use the magic? What makes you able to use the magic? Is there like a gauge that like you can only use so much and can't use it again? I don't know. I wasn't able to figure it out. And Cryptic says, I didn't know there was different magic. I love that. Cryptic also said, I had to play this game slow. The new game makes it seem like fast-paced action. Yes, and I'm really looking forward to the new game. I am a sucker for ninja games. Like I'm a huge sucker for ninja games. And I mean, this game was very nostalgic going back to it. Very nostalgic. Because again, like whether it was this or Ninja Gaiden in the arcade, that kind of stuff, like I remember playing these type of games. Shadow Dancer is a game very similar to this, but Shadow Dancer I don't think was as difficult because we used to play all the way through it on the regular, but it's a pretty similar game to and I think it's called it's called Shadow Dancer: The Secret of Shinobi. So like it is definitely tied to Shinobi and came out a year later in 1990. So there you go. I hope it makes its way to the NSO. I would love that. Reception and legacy. When the Revenge of Shinobi launched, it was praised for its graphics, music, and deep gameplay. It was considered one of the best reasons to own a Genesis in the early 90s, and it helped establish Sega's reputation for making edgy, action-packed titles that stood apart from Nintendo's offering. The soundtrack in particular became legendary. Yuzo Koshiro's work is still remixed and celebrated today. It spawned sequels like Shinobi 3 and helped make ninjas a staple of 90s gaming culture. So we're going to go through some fun facts and trivia. Here's some facts about The Revenge of Shinobi you might not know. The original bosses included Spider-Man, Batman, and Godzilla. Sort of. Early versions of the game featured bosses that looked like these famous characters. Spider-Man was actually licensed, like I said earlier, in some versions, but Batman and Godzilla weren't, leading to legal issues. Later revisions changed the design to avoid lawsuits. Spider-Man's appearance was reworked. Godzilla was replaced by just a giant skeleton dinosaur, and Batman became a demon bat. Yuzo Koshiro composed the soundtrack on a PC 8801. Koshiro composed the music using a Japanese PC and his custom audio driver. The music pushed the Genesis sound chip to its limits and remains one of the most iconic soundtracks of the 16-bit era. I love that. The Suicide Magic was inspired by Kabuki theater. Joe Musashi's final magic attack, which causes him to self-destruct and deal massive damage, was inspired by dramatic self-sacrifice tropes found in traditional Japanese theater. In the US release had a bug that let you have infinite shurikens. This is funny. If you set your shuriken count to 0 in the options screen, it actually gave you infinite shurikens. A handy trick for surviving those tougher stages. The game's original title was The Super Shinobi in Japan. The name Revenge of Shinobi was chosen for the Western markets to emphasize the darker tone of the game's story and vengeance. And, for 1989, it was something special, honestly. And again, I had a good time with this. That boss just absolutely destroyed me. And I wanted to spend more time with this and see if I could at least get past the first stage. I just did not have the time to make that happen. But I did enjoy what I played. What I want to know from you guys is, what did you think? And if you have any history with this game. It was really cool to see, as I mentioned this game in last week's podcast, a number of comments came through on Spotify saying or on YouTube and the Discord, talking about how they had just beaten Shinobi recently and we're excited to see it as our game of the week. And I'm also curious. I saw a question from Cryptic. Oh, he put it in chat again. It says, was there ever a 6-button Genesis controller? NSO only has the 3-button, and there was. Yes, there was a 6-button Genesis controller. It was. I have a couple of them in my collection, and because games like Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat and stuff, it was really tough to play those games with only the 3 buttons. You were constantly Street Fighter, you literally had to hit like select to switch between kick and punch. Like, it was not ideal. Not ideal at all. And I wish the Genesis controller that had come out for NSO was the 6-button, not the 3. It just would have been better in my opinion. But that's not what they ended up doing, unfortunately. So, but yeah, I am curious. Did anybody beat the first stage? Did like, is this a game you played as a kid and you were able to just pick it up and run through it again? Or maybe this was somewhat of a first for all of us. And I mean, I kind of intentionally went with the older game, not the newer one, because I was like, I know this is going to be a challenge, right? Which can be fun. It can also be frustrating. And so I would say the game was, even the first enemy you fight, I'm throwing shurikens and he's blocking all of them. And then I'm like, well, what's going to happen? Like, it looks like I have a sword, but how do I pull my sword out? I don't know if you guys were in a similar situation where you're like hitting all the buttons and like, there's no sword coming out. Like, am I doing this right? Like, is there something I'm missing? And then, but yeah, just to watch all the shurikens get just deflected by this samurai or whatever, I was like, this is crazy. This is nuts. How am I supposed to beat these guys? So Cryptic says, growing up, I was always confused. Ninja Gaiden and Shinobi. I enjoyed this game and initially played it trying to run through, but you get destroyed. Fighting the ninjas was more of a puzzle game. Yes. Yeah, trying to figure out, finishing up the statement, trying to figure out their patterns. And there's no question there. That's literally the truth. And like, if you're watching the gameplay right now, like I stood by these doors for a while, just like, okay, will they stop coming out? And they don't. They just keep coming out, I anticipated being able to grab the ledge, or like there's like, you can kind of see like a beam. I thought I might grab on that and hang, but no, I was sadly mistaken, because it's just too, games weren't at that point yet. They weren't. I will say this about Sega games in this era. They really did a fantastic job with these kind of side scroller beat 'em ups that, like, they weren't like Final Fight or like Streets of Rage, and those were fantastic, but these like they had no depth to them, really. It was just like the back and forth, right? Like very like 2D action adventure, like beat 'em up platformer kind of thing. Sega shined in this area. Like, if you go and watch that video, they talk about how like the way these levels were designed to like give a little more depth and everything. Like, it was kind of an impressive feat for what this game was pulling off back in 1989. And the success of games like this, I can only assume, inspired games like X-Men and X-Men 2 on the Sega Genesis. X-Men 2 is one of, like, it is absolutely chef's kiss. Like, that was a game my buddy and I used to play for hours and hours and hours. We would beat it and start it back over again because it was just so good. Like, so good. And this game is very similar to X-Men 2 on Sega Genesis. And I mean, when it came to the Marvel games, there was Arcade's Revenge, like X-Men Arcade's Revenge on Super Nintendo, and it was trash. It was just straight up trash. You could play as Spider-Man and Storm, and I think Storm was like swimming, or maybe she was flying. I owned the game, and so I was like, I've got to try to get further in this. But like, after playing X-Men 2 on the Genesis, I'm like, this isn't even remotely as good. Sega just really did such a fantastic job with with this genre, and getting licensed IP into the mix. I think you could play as Nightcrawler in that one. I remember Wolverine, Cyclops, all the X-Men, or at least a lot of them, and it was great. And you can grab inspiration from this one. And like I said, Shadow Dancer, that was a game that, again, hours and hours and hours played through to completion. Like, loved ninja games back in the early 90s. They were just fun. They were just fun. So, like I said at the beginning of the show, guys, we're gonna have 2 weeks on Ninja Gaiden. Now, what's gonna be interesting is when the new Shinobi releases, that will become our game of the week for that week. So we'll take a little break from NSO. So I just want to let you guys know that will be one that if you want to participate that week, you'll have to purchase it. So I'm just giving you a little bit of advance warning there. And then the same thing will happen with the new Ninja Gaiden as well. And so with Ninja Gaiden, you got 2 weeks. And so again, I want to see how many people we can get involved in this, and then just to see who can get the furthest. And maybe somebody is going to come across this show, and that will be like somebody that's really good at could play all the way through the Ninja Gaiden games, and that would be amazing, because it would just be fun to be able to chat with somebody that has that kind of experience. So, taking a look at chat here, Cryptic says, that's great about Switch is that Sega sometimes release their Mega Collection with a mix of these classic titles. Yes. Yeah, that is true. I have one of the Sega collections on Switch, and it was really good. I think I had it on Xbox as well as Easy Achievements, if I remember correctly. So they are still accessible without NSO, which is cool. That, yeah, very true. Very true. And I feel like the Sega collection of NSO is kind of surprising. A lot of third-party stuff on there, which is great. It's fantastic. It's just I was a little bit shocked at some of the gets they were able to pull off. I'm still hoping for General Chaos. I want to introduce people to General Chaos because I know people will get a kick out of it. It is incredibly fun. It's incredibly challenging. It's a very quirky and charming game, and would just love for more people to get to experience General Chaos on the Sega Genesis. So that is going to do it for this episode of NSO Game of the Week. Thank you guys so much for being here and for participating. And if you have games that you want to see us cover from NSO, just make sure to let me know in the Game of the Week section of Discord. We literally did a Sega game for Nady because he's our resident Sega fan, and so that is why the Sega Genesis game was picked. But we're going to be back on the NES. I actually picked up the Joy-Con charger for the Switch so that I could charge my NES controllers easier than having to hook up a whole Switch and plug it in and all that stuff. So that way I can play Ninja Gaiden and any of the other NSO games that we do on the NES with the official controller. So thanks again, guys, for being here, for listening after the fact. I appreciate you all, and remember, play it loud.